taking notes from nobody.
Jaylen Brown.
Your superstars have off games.
Follow us on social media at Celtics Talk Weekly.
What's going on, everybody? Welcome back. Back-to-back episode, little late-night episode of the Celtics Talk Weekly. Seamus, how we feeling tonight?
Well, this is, as you said, second. Well, I guess last night's was a little bit of a late night episode, but now tonight, especially post-game show, late night, Celtics, they're not favored coming into tonight, and part of the reason why, second game of a back-to-back on the road, on the West Coast. They're all the way on the West Coast now, all the way out in Portland after facing Utah last night. You know, the Celtics, looking at the matchup tonight, they're not favored in it. However, I believe they should be. No Al, no Jaylen. I'm not sure if Romeo's playing yet. That might have been updated in the last hour or so. But you look at the Portland Trailblazers, no Anthony Simons tonight, no Damian Lillard, no Nasir Little. Those are three pretty okay rotate. Well, obviously Damian Lillard's their star, but other than that, three really crucial role players for them, or two really crucial role players for them. And tonight, the Celtics, they have to come out. They have to punch them in the mouth early and finish this game, because after what we saw in Utah last night, the Celtics can clearly compete with some of the best teams in the league, and they've shown it all season long. But this is a game, again, we've talked about it many times, they have to win these easy or seemingly easier games, and tonight will be one of them against the Portland Trailblazers.
Definitely, for sure. And, you know, the Celtics kind of got, they got punched in the mouth a little bit last night. They allowed 27 three-pointers against the Utah Jazz, which even a day after, I still think is kind of insane about how crazy the Jazz shot last night. But as you were talking about in your opening intro, we do have the injury report, and the injury report does include Romeo Langford. So it is Jaylen Brown, Al Horford, and Romeo Langford are all out for the Celtics tonight. Damian Lillard is out for the Portland Trailblazers, and as you said, Anthony Simons, and I think you said one more person, but I can't remember.
Little, I believe, is
Nasir Little. Nasir Little, yeah. So, in a little injury-plagued game for both teams. How much do you think these injuries are going to play a part in tonight?
Well, this is another one of those games where I don't think you can really gauge much out of each team after tonight. I mean, the Celtics, I would believe you would take more from their side of things than the Blazers, because if you look at the Blazers right now, they're not exactly expecting to win every game out there with Damian Lillard out. Damian Lillard is their star and their clear star that helps them win games, and he's a huge part of that team, as we've seen in recent years, especially during the playoffs. And this year coming in, the Portland Trailblazers, not many people had that many expectations for them, for the sheer fact that they went out in the playoffs last year. Damian Lillard trade speculation was rampant throughout the summer, and it was even rampant coming into this year. But now it seems like they're going to keep this team together. I've talked about it before on many NBA shows that, the Portland Trailblazers, they're going to try to sell tickets. That's exactly in the market they are. They're just going to try to sell tickets. They're not exactly – that's a bigger picture, I would say, of the Portland Trailblazers. They're not exactly going to be a finals contender, but especially without Damian Lillard tonight, not going to see much out of the Blazers that we're going to take away from this game. But the Celtics, it's going to be that next man up in mentality. They have to pull out a game like this, because the last two games, you look at, okay, you beat the 76ers by 1. That was a great home win. And then you lost by 7 while giving up 137 to the Jazz. And now you have the Blazers tonight, who you should take care of. And now you have the Lakers coming up, the Clippers coming up, and the Suns before you go back home and face the Bucks, Warriors, Suns, and Knicks. So you have to pull out a win on a night like this, because, like I said, this is going to be one of the easier matchups the Celtics have because of the injuries moving forward. Even though that they're going to have a plethora of injuries themselves, they should be able to pull out the game with the amount of talent they have on the roster tonight.
Definitely. And starting lineup did just get announced for the Celtics. It is Marcus Smart, Dennis Schroeder, Jason Tatum, Grant Williams, and Robert Williams. Now, something before we go into our key matchup, I do want to talk about Grant Williams a little bit, and we've said it a few times on the show here how much he thrives in the starting lineup. So I'm kind of really hoping that he can put up some numbers tonight. And he got into a little bit of foul trouble in the Utah game, but I mean, it's kind of hard to guard Rudy Gobert anyway. But I'm pretty excited to see what what Grant Williams and Dennis Schroeder do now that Jaylen Brown and Al Horford are out of the starting lineup.
Yeah, and this is ultimately, Grant Williams. I've talked about him many times, and obviously going all the way back to the offseason, even prior to that, he was probably one of my favorite rookies in 2019 to talk about because, well, he was a rotational guy back in that season. Grant Williams being in the starting lineup and being now a solid rotation player for the Celtics, that brings a lot of hope to this team. And overall, we talk about the starting lineup tonight. Even with two guys out, Jaylen Brown and Al Horford, like I said, the Celtics, with their talent out there, should be able to win this game still. And that's what ultimately gives this team hope moving forward is, look, last year when a guy was out, it was call Shimi Ojale up. Grant Williams, he wasn't as good last year, and he had I guess you could call it a sophomore slump year last year to the point of he didn't feel confident in any of those lineups whatsoever when anyone was out, anybody in the starting five. So this year now, the fact that we have two of our main pieces out, two of our probably top four players, I would say, Jaylen Brown and Al Horford, the fact that they're out and you can still feel comfortable about putting Dennis Schroeder in the lineup, putting Grant Williams in the lineup, and actually having confidence in that lineup working out to start the game and even having stints throughout the game that are solid and other players as well being out there in different lineups and rotations. The fact that the Celtics have that kind of depth this year is still promising despite us being 12-11 right now, because you look at the teams in the NBA, what's usually most important come playoff time? It's usually depth and health. Right now the Celtics don't have health, but they have the depth. So when they get the health, it's going to be very interesting to see where that depth can take them. And so far we haven't really seen it through 23 games now this season, because we've been healthy for 6 or 7 games, and that's really not even true because Jaylen Brown in those other 2 games that he was healthy, not exactly healthy himself. So I would say the Celtics, it's still promising moving forward. And these injuries tonight in Grant Williams and Dennis Schroeder being inserted into the lineup, that's a level of comfortability that the Celtics want to be at moving forward. And even if this team isn't going to be a finals team, that's at least a basis for, I talked about this last night, the offseason up ahead is going to be huge, and this month up ahead is going to be huge. So that puts the Celtics in at least a good position moving forward. And Grant Williams, let's hope he has a night tonight.
For sure. And although there are a lot of injuries tonight, we still do have 2 players who can go off on any night, and that is actually our key matchup. Our key matchup is Jason Tatum versus CJ McCollum. I'm not 100% sure how good CJ McCollum has been this year. I can look up his stats really quick. But he's had to carry the load a little bit with the Trailblazers since Dame has been out. So it says that CJ McCollum is averaging 20.4 points a game. He's got 4.3 rebounds, 4.4 assists. So, it's solid. It's about what you would expect from CJ McCollum. And we all know Jason Tatum just dropped 37 last night. Seamus, what do you think of our key matchup tonight?
Well, defending CJ McCollum and the Blazers in general, the Celtics are going to need to defend on ball hard because this Blazers team, it's not going to be as much ball movement as we saw last night in Utah, or as much cutting off balls as much as you see in a Warriors game or a Utah game or a Suns game. This Blazers team, they rely a lot on isolation. They rely a lot on single action kickouts and just players going one-on-one with guys. And CJ McCollum, obviously, and Damian Lillard as well when he's in the lineup, at the forefront of that. And CJ McCollum, if you take him out of the equation tonight, it's going to be very hard to find another Blazers player out there who can, number one, play make, and number two, actually score the ball. Because if you look at the lineup, or look at the injury report rather, Damian Lillard is out, and Anthony Simons. Those are 2 of your main ball handlers outside of CJ McCollum. So if you take McCollum out of the game tonight, that's going to be the Blazers. It's going to be a very tough time finding points for them. And coming into tonight as well, the Celtics, I know yesterday they were 5th in defensive rating, and that might have shifted, night to night. However, the Portland Trailblazers, they're 28th in defensive rating right now. So huge discrepancy right there, and a matchup the Celtics definitely have to take advantage of, and I believe they will tonight. It's going to be a matchup of, if we take 1 or 2 guys out of this game or really hone in on 1 or 2 guys, I think we'll be able to come out of this game with a win.
Definitely. And we have said this about the Blazers, and we've said this about a bunch of other teams, but at the same time, we can't take for granted who we're playing. We can never take advantage of our opponent. Doesn't matter how many people are injured, because you never know. Yusuf Nurkic can turn into a three-point god tonight, and he could just, like, I don't know, watch him drop 50 and have, like, 20 rebounds. You know, that something like that. In this Cantor revenge game, although next season, who knows, maybe he'll sign back with Portland again. But
and then we'll have it again in 2 seasons when he comes back to Boston.
Exactly. So that gets us into our key matchups of the game. Our keys to the game. Seamus, what is your key to the game tonight?
I think it's going to be, I said it last night too, and it's going to be closeout on shooters, and everything's going to come defensively, because I believe in this game tonight, the Celtics clearly showed their ability to put points up on the board last night against Utah. If you can bring that same rhythm into tonight, and hopefully, you know, shed a little bit of that fourth quarter funk. It's kind of weird, the Celtics, we probably should have talked a little bit more about that game last night in general, or in a positive light, because the Celtics, they actually had a pretty good fourth quarter. I mean, 33 points in the quarter was not too bad, but then it was overshadowed by the fact that Utah just had an insane game overall, an insane fourth quarter. The Celtics, they can bring that rhythm into tonight. That's going to be huge. Obviously, starting early, finishing late, and just closing out on shooters and making sure you're defending the entire game. If the Celtics bring their defense tonight, I've said this actually multiple times now, as I believe we should be able to pull out this game because of the firepower we have and the defensive prowess that this team has shown to have over the last, you know, couple of weeks, or now a month, I should say.
Definitely. And my key to the game, we have to finish strong, like, in the end. If this is a close game coming down to the wire, the Celtics, over the last few opportunities they've had outside of the Philly game, they have struggled when it comes to end-of-game execution. And I really want to see the Celtics, at least if they're in that situation, if it's a close game, I want them to improve on that, and I want them to actually close out the game. So, that moves us into our over-unders, which is always a fan favorite here. We always enjoy doing them. Last night, Seamus had a big night over-under, 4 for 4, and I went 2 for 4. So, you know, it's all right. It's all right. We're still going.
It's like 50%. It's better than Tatum from the field right now. It's fine.
Or from 3. But no offense to Tatum. But let's get into our first over-under here. And we talked about him earlier in the show. We talked about Grant Williams. My over-under for Grant Williams, over-under 11 points tonight. He has gotten, in his last, I think it's last, like, 10-ish games, he's got 6, 3, 15, 7, 8, 2, 14, 5, 18, and 11. So, where do you see Grant tonight?
I'm gonna go and take the over on this, because number one, he's starting. We've seen this before. When Grant Williams starts, it's usually one of those games where he can score over 11 points. And also, who he's starting for tonight, he's not starting for Robert Williams. He's starting for Al Horford tonight out there. And I think tonight, with the matchup that presents itself, Grant Williams is going to have a lot of opportunity to be out on the court and, you know, crash the boards a lot. He's going to be needed for that aspect of the game. And I think tonight, Grant Williams, is it 11.5 or 11 right now? Are we doing
we can do 11.5.
All right, well, I'll take the over on 11.5. So 12 points for Grant Williams. I never thought I'd be making this bet coming into the season, but starting lineup, Grant, is different. He's built different.
For sure. And, I mean, I've said this a bunch of times. I can never doubt Grant Williams. Anytime that we have a Grant Williams over-under, he always seems to come in clutch. I remember, was it that Brooklyn game where we had a Grant over-under, I think, and he hit it over, so I'm really excited. I'm going to go over Grant Williams 11.5, and that moves us into the other Williams on our team. That moves us to Robert Williams. Now, we don't have Al Horford, and we did do something similar last night with his rebounding, but this time it's him by himself. Now, do you see Robert Williams over under 8.5 rebounds tonight? No Al Horford.
Yeah, that's a tough one, because Robert Williams' rebounding numbers overall, it seems like they've been lower this year than what they have been in the past. And last year, if I'm not mistaken, you know, he was I'm not mistaken. I remember he was a pretty efficient double-double guy for most of the season when he was consistently in the lineup playing minutes and even in the starting lineup. Tonight, 8.5 rebounds. against the Blazers. I'm gonna have to go. I'm gonna have to take the over on this one. No Al Horford tonight really makes that. I believe this bet one that I feel comfortable about, and also just this goes along with Grant Williams' argument too. He's gonna have a lot of opportunity out there against the bigger Blazers team as well tonight. So I'm gonna go over 8.5 rebounds for Robert Williams tonight.
Definitely. I 100% agree with you. I'm going to go over tonight. We don't have a lot of people outside of Freedom and Robert Williams that are our big men that are going to be relying on our rebounding. Although it feels like in most games this season, Tatum has been the one that's been out-rebounding everyone in every team, it feels like. So let's see. I feel like Robert Williams could definitely get about 9 rebounds tonight. I can see it. And that brings us to our final over-under tonight. We have our bench. Now, we are doing a next man up mentality tonight since we don't have Jaylen Brown, since we don't have Al Horford, and we don't have Romeo Langford. So, over-under 25 points for our bench tonight.
Ooh, that's a tough one. They always seem to hover around that mark. No Dennis Schroeder off the bench. No Grant Williams off the bench tonight. No Romeo Langford off the bench
But
tonight.
we do have Josh Richardson. We got Freedom. Nesmith.
Nesmith if he plays. This is a tough one for the sheer fact that all these players are out, all these bench players. Well, I shouldn't say all these players are out, but Schroeder, Williams, they're starting tonight, so they're not going to be considered bench points, and Romeo Langford's out tonight. However, like I said, the Blazers' defensive rating all the way down to 28th. So imagine the Celtics. They scored 130 last night. Maybe they bring that rhythm over into tonight and they score 115, 120 tonight, hopefully. And in that case, I think you would have to take the over for the bench. And, I have to take the under. I don't think there's enough horses off the bench tonight. I think if there was one more player, if you were to slot Grant Williams or Schroeder onto the bench, I'd feel very comfortable about taking that over. But there's just not enough people off the bench tonight for me.
Yeah, and I mean, I don't mean to keep piggybacking off of all of your points here, but I'm also going to take the under. I feel like unless Josh Richardson comes out and Josh Richardson has been playing really well this season, so he has the chance. If he comes out and he drops 25 by himself, that could easily happen. But at the same time, I like Nesmith. I really do. I don't know if Ime is going to play him a lot tonight, and maybe we see Jabari Parker.
Yeah.
Maybe we see Peyton Pritchard. I mean, that's a maybe, but...
Well, Peyton Pritchard is a home game for him, too. Portland.
Oh, yeah, that is right. He's probably... Actually, now I think about it, they might play Peyton Pritchard a little more just because, it's his homecoming game. The last time he was in Portland, he dropped, 92 points in a Pro-Am game?
Yeah, I was going to say, they have to put up a graphic on the screen tonight. Last game in Portland, 92 points. Their last 2 games in Portland averaged 88 points or whatever it was. What did he drop? He had 92, and then he went back and had 60 or something. I don't even remember.
Yeah, I think he had 70-something the next game that he went out there. And then he came back and, we sadly lost the Celtics Celtics Summer League Finals. But
why do we freak out over that? Let's spend a minute on it.
Well,
92
maybe
points against, who? Me and you, we're gonna go out there and play against Peyton Pritchard. Of course, he's gonna score 92.
Let's be honest here. Hang on. I think Peyton Pritchard is my height, so I think Peyton Pritchard's what? He's got to be 5'10", right? 5'10", 5'11". He's 6'1". Damn, I didn't even know that.
Well, no. Kemba Walker was 6'1". Isaiah Thomas.
Yeah,
was
Kemba Walker.
5'11". They're not. You look at them on court, and I think they're. That was always the narrative when Kemba Walker was here, right? He's not really 6'1". He's more 5'8", 5'9", maybe.
Right.
And it was more of the
even if Peyton Pritchard, let's just give him the benefit of the doubt and say he's 5'10". I mean, you don't expect a 5'10" guy who. I mean, Peyton Pritchard balls, but let's be honest. If you see Peyton Pritchard on the street, you're not immediately going to think NBA basketball player. So, when you see a guy like that and he drops 92 points in a Pro-Am game, and then I think there was another player at the same time who I can't remember who it was, but I remember he also played in a Pro-Am game and he dropped 60-something, and he was a guy who's in the G League right now, I think.
Jabari Parker was destroying the Chicago Pro-Am circuit during the summer as well. I don't know I don't know any of his stats from this summer, but I know he was destroying that Pro-Am game or league. Who else? I'm trying to think who's the we got to put together. Somebody's got to put together the all Pro-Am team.
Oh, Mike James. Mike James. Thank you. Thank you, Tanner.
Yes, he was there.
Thank you.
Yes.
Thank you. I'm glad because I remember there was somebody, and I remember I think I don't even know if he's on the NBA team right now, but
I don't think he is in the NBA right now. If I'm not mistaken.
I mean, he was a nice story though when he came over from Brooklyn. I think he was like overseas for a while, and then he just kind of came over and played for a while. I remember he went off against the Celtics in one of those games at the end of the year, but I guess we don't need to.
On the Phoenix Suns Summer League team a couple of years ago, and he was firecracker then. He came in last year. I'm a little surprised that he's not on an NBA roster. If you look at some of the teams that, like, hey, Pelicans, go ahead. Mike James, take a shot. Kings, go ahead. Who cares? Like some of these teams.
Although I don't know if the Kings need another guard, but
well, they're going to need another center after next year when Tristan Thompson retires, apparently.
Yeah, that's a whole nother can of worms that we don't need to open on this show. Although if he was still on the Celtics, maybe we would talk about it a little more. But we're coming up to the end of our time here. Celtics tip off at 10 o'clock. It's about 9:56 right now, Eastern Standard Time. Seamus, any final thoughts tonight before we head into the game?
Just like Al Davis, just win, baby. That's it. Just win. You got to win tonight. I mean, it's not a must-win, but you don't want to fall back to 500 and get the Lakers game coming up on Tuesday. You want to head into that game, 2 days rest in between with a win, and the vibe will be different around the team, and that'll create a different energy moving forward. So just win tonight, baby.
Definitely. Did we have a jersey matchup thing? I can't remember. How about what are Portland wearing tonight for the jerseys?
I think they're wearing their home whites, and we're wearing the statement jerseys. So solid matchup tonight. Solid matchup.
True. I like our statement jerseys. I feel like we don't wear them enough, to be honest with you.
Yeah, it feels like we're only wearing them on Saturdays now. I think I don't know. So Justin has, shout out Celtics Rising. I believe it's on his page where you have the whole schedule of each jersey.
Oh yeah, that's right. He did that. Yeah.
Yeah.
That was pretty cool.
Go check that guy. Check that out, guys.
Celtics Rising, but it's also yeah. So I'm thinking. I don't know. I don't know how I feel about this game. Are we going to overreact if the Celtics lose tonight? I don't think we should, but at the same time, being a 500 team is kind of it's going to be kind of maddening again because I feel like this Celtics team has way too much talent and is so good and have so many good players that we should not be a 500 team right now. Or even close to a 500 team right now. We should be up there with like the Cavaliers. It's kind of crazy we say that, but we should be up there with the Cavaliers and the Wizards and the Bulls. And I that's what I personally feel like. And it sucks that we started out so tough. We started at 2-5. It was kind of a rough start, but I hope. I mean, it's a marathon, not a sprint. Celtics got plenty of time for the rest of the year to come back.
Yep. Entirely, and we're not that far from those teams either. We're only a couple games back, still about 60 games to go. I don't know the exact number right now, but 50-60 games to go, so definitely some time. But again, starts tonight now. The point in time we're at right now starts tonight.
Definitely. So feels like we are coming up on our time here. Want to thank all of you guys for watching. I hope you guys come back for the post-game show, whether that be at 1 a.m. or 2 a.m. or hopefully this game doesn't go into overtime, but it doesn't matter what. Exactly. Doesn't matter what time that the Celtics game ends. Doesn't matter how it ends, win, loss, tie if that ever happens, but 5 overtimes. We lose, get blown out after the second quarter. Doesn't matter. We'll be back here. Me and Seamus. Not 100% sure if Rob is going to be on the post-game show. If he is, you'll see Rob too. So thank you all for watching. We will see you at the post-game show. Make sure you guys follow us on social media at the Celtics Talk Weekly on Instagram, TikTok, Twitter, Apple Podcasts, Spotify. So thank you again for watching. Have a great night, and go Celtics.